I knew I was playing with fire, but I lit the match anyway. Okay, I need to just say this out loud. I knowingly set my own marriage on fire. Every single step, I knew it was a stupid idea, but I did it anyway. Why? Because I thought I was clever enough to handle the flames. Now my husband, Owen, is gone. Owen is, well, he was the kind of man you're supposed to marry, the kind of man my mother cried with joy about. He's a pediatric physical therapist, which tells you almost everything you need to know about him. He has this bottomless well of patience that I've seen him use to coax a smile out of a child in pain, and he brought that same gentle energy home. He's patient, he's kind, and his world operates on a schedule of quiet, predictable compassion. Our life together was meticulously built, you know. A nice house in a quiet suburb, dinners at 7 p.m. sharp, weekends spent browsing farmers' markets for organic vegetables. It was safe, it was stable, and honestly, it was starting to feel suffocatingly bland. My life, on the other hand, was lived in the chaotic, high-stakes world of advertising. I thrived on the buzz of a last-minute pitch, the validation of a successful campaign, the constant, glittering attention from clients and colleagues. I loved coming home to Owen, I truly did, but the transition always felt like plunging into deep water. I'd leave an office buzzing with energy, ringing phones, and the electric thrill of a deadline met, and walk into a home that was silent. Peaceful, Owen would be reading in his favorite armchair, the house smelling of whatever sensible meal he'd cooked. A part of me, a part I refused to acknowledge, was starving for a spark, for a little bit of the unpredictable fire I'd left behind. And Owen, bless his principled heart, had one single, unbreakable rule. It was the foundation of our entire relationship. He told me about his parents early on, not as a warning, but just as a fact of his life. His father hadn't just cheated on his mother, he had built an entire second life in the shadows of their first. It wasn't the affair itself that destroyed Owen's family. It was the years of intricate lies. He told me about finding receipts for hotels in their own city, about the time his dad claimed to be at a conference, but a family friend saw him at a local restaurant with another woman. It was the constant gaslighting, the web of deceit that made him realize his entire childhood was a performance. It gave him an almost pathological aversion to dishonesty. No secrets. No lies, not even the little white ones about liking a friend's terrible new haircut. I knew this. It was his deepest wound, his only real red line. And I, in my infinite wisdom, thought it was a little dramatic. I remember one night, after a glass of wine, I teased him about it. "It's your little honesty crusade, isn't it?" I'd said, smiling. He didn't smile back, he just looked at me, his expression completely serious, and said, "Ira, it's not a joke to me, it's everything." I saw it as a quirk, a rigid little rule in an otherwise perfect man. I never ever saw it as the loaded gun it actually was. I just couldn't comprehend that for him, a secret wasn't just a secret, it was a betrayal of reality itself. A betrayal he would never, ever tolerate again. Then Declan slid into my DMs, just like that. A name I hadn't seen in nearly a decade, popping up on my screen on a boring Tuesday afternoon. I was in a mind-numbing budget meeting, pretending to take notes while actually scrolling through Instagram, and the notification banner dropped down from the top of my phone. A name from a different lifetime. Declan, he was my college boyfriend, the complete antithesis of Owen. He was a chaotic, brilliant, and deeply unreliable artist. Our relationship was a whirlwind of last-minute road trips in his beat-up car, the constant smell of turpentine and cheap coffee, arguments in public parks, and passionate reconciliations in his dusty, paint-splattered studio. We burned bright and then inevitably we burned out. I chose stability. I chose the calm, steady warmth of Owen over Declan's unpredictable inferno. His message was innocuous enough. "Hey Ira, saw your profile pop up. Wow, you look amazing. Hope life's been good to you." That's all it was. A simple, friendly little grenade tossed into the quiet garden of my life. I should have deleted it, I should have blocked him. I should have shown Owen and laughed about it, this ghost from a past life. That's what the smart, sensible Ira who loved her husband would have done. But I didn't. I felt a jolt, a physical shock of adrenaline that made the boring meeting around me completely disappear. It was pure ego, you know. The little thrill of knowing that this man, who once consumed my entire world, was still thinking of me. So I replied. I spent a full 10 minutes crafting the perfect, casual response. "Declan, blast from the past, I'm doing great thanks, married now, living the quiet life." I even added the part about being married like a little shield. "See, I'm unavailable." This is harmless. I told myself it was just politeness. You can't just ignore someone, right? That's rude. But my cognitive arrogance, that smug little voice in my head that had gotten me promotions and won me pitches, was already taking over. It started whispering to me, "You're smart, Ira, you're in control. This isn't a threat, it's just a game." A little validation. Owen doesn't need to know because it would only worry him over nothing. This isn't a secret, it's just private. You're protecting his peace of mind. God, the lies we tell ourselves. I convinced myself that I was clever enough to keep these two worlds completely separate. I could have the thrill of Declan's attention and the security of Owen's love. I wasn't just capable of managing this secret, I felt entitled to it. A little harmless fun to offset the beige predictability of my perfect, sensible life. I opened Pandora's box, not with a bang, but with a casual little tap on a keyboard, fully convinced I was the one who had forged the lock and held the only key. At first, it was exactly what I told myself it would be, harmless. We exchanged a few messages a week, catching up on the last 10 years. He was living in the city, still painting, still struggling, still Declan. He'd send me pictures of his latest work, and I'd tell him about my latest ad campaign. It was innocent. It felt safe. I even showed one of his paintings to Owen casually over dinner. "Look, my old friend Declan is still at it." Owen glanced at the screen, said, "That's nice, honey," and went back to his lasagna. See, I thought, totally separate worlds, no danger here, but the thrill was in the secrecy itself. I found myself checking my phone more often, a little jolt of anticipation every time a notification popped up. I started muting my notifications so Owen wouldn't see his name appear on my lock screen. I'd wait until Owen was in the shower or had gone to bed to read and reply. The house would be quiet, the only light from my phone screen illuminating my face, and it felt like a clandestine meeting. It was a tiny act of rebellion, a secret world that was all mine, a counterpoint to the shared bank accounts and the joint calendar on the fridge. Then the tone shifted, slowly at first, then all at once. Declan started getting more personal, more flirtatious. He'd reminisce about the old days, dropping little reminders of our shared history. "Remember that time we drove to the coast on a whim? God, you were so wild, Ira." And I, soaking up the attention like a dry sponge, would play along. "I'm a boring married lady now," I'd reply with a winking emoji. I was feeding the fire and I knew it. Every emoji, every lols was a little piece of kindling. The messages became a daily ritual. He was the first person I'd talk to in the morning and the last at night. He'd send me a good morning, sunshine, and my day would feel a little brighter, a little less corporate. He'd ask me what I was wearing and I'd describe my boring work clothes, but the question itself felt illicit and exciting. I started using a separate, encrypted messaging app for privacy, I told myself, as if we were discussing state secrets instead of just flirting. The act of downloading it, of setting a password, felt like a definitive step into a darker, more exciting room. I became a master of deception. My life became a series of carefully managed compartments. I'd sit on the couch next to Owen, his arm around me while we watched some documentary he'd chosen, and I'd be smiling at some suggestive joke Declan had sent. The duality was intoxicating. I felt powerful, like I was the writer, director, and star of my own secret film. My internal monologue was working overtime to justify everything. "This is just an ego boost, it's not real. It's just words on a screen, I'm not doing anything physical, so it's not cheating. Owen is a wonderful man, but he doesn't get this side of me. This is just for me." I was so high on my own cleverness, on the adrenaline of the near misses and the perfectly crafted lies. One time Owen almost saw a message, and the resulting heart-pounding panic was almost as addictive as the flirting itself. I was so convinced I had built a firewall between my two lives that I never once stopped to think about what would happen if a single spark managed to jump over it. I wasn't just playing with fire, I was pouring gasoline on it and admiring the pretty colors, absolutely certain I could never get burned. The end came on a perfectly ordinary Saturday morning. It was sunny, the kind of lazy weekend day that used to be my favorite. Owen was making coffee, and I was curled up on the sofa, scrolling through my phone. His work laptop was on the fritz, updating for what felt like hours, and he needed to look up a new physical therapy protocol for one of his kids at the clinic. "Hey, can I borrow your tablet for a minute?" he asked from the kitchen, his voice casual. "My laptop is staging a protest." "Sure, honey," I said, not even looking up. "Passwords are anniversary." My heart didn't even flutter. Why would it? I was meticulous. I always logged out, always. The tablet was clean. It was the safest device I had. He took the tablet and sat down in his armchair across from me. I heard the soft clicks of the keyboard as he typed in the date we got married. I heard the hum of the device turning on. I heard him start to type in the search bar, and then I heard silence. A heavy, sudden silence that made the hairs on my arms stand up. I looked up from my phone. He was just sitting there holding the tablet, staring at the screen. His face was completely blank, not angry, not sad, just empty. And then a notification sound. A cheerful little ping from the tablet that echoed in the silent room like a gunshot. My blood ran cold. I felt a wave of nausea so intense I thought I was going to be sick. No. No, no, no. I frantically replayed my recent actions in my head. Had I forgotten to log out? It was impossible. I never forgot. He slowly lifted his head and looked at me. His eyes were dark and I couldn't read them at all. He held up the tablet and turned it so I could see the screen, and there it was. The interface of the encrypted messaging app open. And on the screen, a new message from Declan delivered just seconds before. Still thinking about what you said last night? You're a bad, bad girl, Ira. And I love it. The silence that followed was the loudest thing I've ever heard. It was a physical presence in the room, pressing in on me, suffocating me. Owen didn't move. He just sat there holding the tablet like it was a piece of evidence at a crime scene. My crime scene. My mind went into overdrive, scrambling for an explanation, a plausible lie, anything. Owen, I started, my voice sounding thin and foreign. It's not what it looks like, it's just a stupid joke. He's an old friend, we were just messing around. The words tumbled out, clumsy and pathetic. He finally lowered the tablet, placing it on the coffee table between us with a quiet, deliberate click. He didn't yell, he didn't scream or throw things. He just looked at me, and for the first time, I saw the full depth of his disappointment. It was a calm, fathomless ocean of it, and I was drowning. What is this, Ira? He asked. His voice was unnervingly level. No anger, just a genuine, devastating question. It's nothing, I insisted, my voice rising with panic. Honestly, it's just words, we were being dumb. We haven't done anything, I swear. It was just a way to feel a little less boring, you know. He flinched, just a tiny, almost imperceptible tightening around his eyes, as if I'd physically struck him. And that's when he cut me off. It's not about what you've done with him, Ira, he said, and the quiet finality in his tone terrified me. I'm sure you're telling the truth. I'm sure it was just words. He paused, taking a slow breath. This is about the lying, the hiding. You downloaded a secret app. You did this behind my back, you knew. You knew exactly what this would mean to me. He wasn't accusing me of infidelity. He was accusing me of something far worse, something he couldn't forgive. He was accusing me of knowing his deepest wound and deliberately pouring salt in it for my own amusement. I can't live with a person I don't trust, he said, and the words were so simple, so direct. There was no room for argument. I can't wake up every day wondering what's a secret and what's real. My father already taught me that lesson. He stood up, his movements slow and methodical. We're done. Just like that, no negotiation, no dramatic breakdown, just a quiet, principled execution of a rule I had known about from the very beginning. His calmness was the most brutal form of rage he could have possibly unleashed. It told me that he wasn't making a decision in the heat of the moment. He was simply acknowledging a fact. The trust was broken, and for him, that meant everything was. He packed a bag that night, just the essentials. He moved with a chilling efficiency, like a stranger in our home. I followed him from room to room, a babbling, incoherent mess of apologies and excuses. I begged, I cried. I told him it was a mistake, a moment of incredible stupidity, and that it would never happen again. He didn't respond. It was like talking to a brick wall. He just kept folding his shirts, placing his toothbrush in a bag, completely detached. When I tried to grab his arm, he gently but firmly removed my hand. Please don't, Ira, was all he said. He didn't even sound angry anymore. He just sounded tired. Resigned, he moved in with his brother. The next day, my phone became a dead zone. My calls went straight to voicemail. My texts were met with a wall of green bubble silence. I was blocked. Everywhere, social media, messaging apps, everything. It was a swift, clean, surgical amputation. I was in a state of shock, convinced this was just a dramatic overreaction. He'd cool off. He'd miss me, he'd come home, right? A few days into this delusional hope, I called my best friend Jess. She and her husband had been to our house for dinner a million times. She knew Owen almost as well as I did. I sobbed down the phone to her, painting myself as the victim. I told her the whole story, but I framed it carefully, emphasizing how harmless the chats were and how Owen was having this insane, disproportionate reaction. There was a long pause on the other end of the lines. I expected sympathy, a chorus of "he's crazy, you did nothing wrong." Instead, what I got was the cold, hard slap of reality. Ira, Jess said, her voice careful but firm. What the hell were you thinking? What do you mean? I stammered. It was just texting. No, it wasn't, she shot back, and I could hear the frustration in her voice. This is Owen we're talking about. You, of all people, know his history. You know his one non-negotiable rule. This wasn't about Declan and it wasn't about flirting. You kept a secret from him, a deliberate, calculated secret for months. You didn't just cross a line, Ira. You took a sledgehammer to the one pillar holding his entire world up. This isn't him overreacting. This is the only way he knows how to react. This is you pushing the self-destruct button on your own marriage. Jess's words echoed in my head for weeks, stripping away my pathetic excuses one by one. The house felt cavernous and empty. Every corner held a memory of Owen, the way he left his reading glasses on the nightstand, the specific mug he used for his morning coffee. It was a museum of a life I had torched. About a month after he left, Owen's brother, Robert, came over to pack up the rest of his things. He was polite but distant, his presence a formal declaration that this was really happening. I just sat on the stairs, numb, watching him carefully wrap Owen's books in boxes. After he'd loaded the last box into his car, I wandered aimlessly through the house. I ended up in his study, a room that was always so quintessentially him, organized, calm, filled with medical journals. I ran my hand over his empty desk, and on a whim, I pulled open the top drawer. It was mostly empty, just some pens and old receipts. But tucked in the very back, I saw a small, dark blue velvet box. My heart stopped, I knew that box. It was from the jeweler where we'd bought our wedding rings. With trembling hands, I opened it. Inside, nestled on the white satin, was a silver necklace. It was a simple, elegant chain with a small, circular pendant. Engraved on the pendant were a set of coordinates. I stared at them, my mind blank for a second, and then it hit me. They were the coordinates of the little Italian restaurant where we had our first date. Tucked underneath the necklace was a small, folded card. I opened it. Owen's neat, steady handwriting filled the small space. To my compass, the one who always points me home. Happy 10th anniversary, my loves. I collapsed. I literally slid down the side of the desk and landed in a heap on the floor, the open box in my hand. I checked the date on my phone. Our anniversary was next week. He had bought this for me. He was planning our future, a future I was actively betraying for a cheap thrill, for a few flattering words from a man I didn't even love. That necklace was the final, brutal confirmation. It was proof of the life I could have had, the love I had thrown away. The story should end there, right? With me learning my lesson, picking myself up and moving on. But it doesn't. I created a new, anonymous Instagram account. It's the first thing I check in the morning and the last thing I see at night. I stalk Owen's profile, his brothers, his friends. He hasn't posted anything about us, he's just living. There are pictures of him hiking with Robert, a group photo from a friend's barbecue. He looks okay, sometimes he even smiles. And me? I'm here in this empty house, a ghost in my own life. I'm the pathetic, obsessive woman refreshing a screen in the dark, watching the man I love heal from the wounds I inflicted. I was the one who lit the match, so proud of my clever little game. Now I'm the one trapped in the hell of my own making, forced to watch the beautiful life I burned to the ground from the outside.